Hello and welcome to Higher Computing Science Database Design and Development, Lesson 5. This is about data dictionaries. Here's what we're learning. It's all the same stuff that you learned at National 5. So if you refresh your memory, a data dictionary, it's a table that describes an entire database. At Nat 5 level, it was the same amount of detail, the same amount of information, but it was only ever for 2 tables, 2 entities. At higher level, we now have up to 4 entities. So you just have to do more of the same. So let's do the recap. The tables in your data dictionary should contain the entity name, all the attributes names, the primary and foreign keys, the attribute types, so like text, number, that type of thing, the attribute size, so if it's a text field, you give it a size, and the validation that is required for that attribute. And this is what I just said. Validation rules can be applied to numbers, text, dates, and times, not booleans because they are automatically selected and there's only 2 things you can select, so you don't need to validate booleans. And the types of validation could be presence check, restricted choice, field length, or range. Let's take a look at those. So here we have a data dictionary for the teacher entity. You see we've got the heading at the top for the entity, and then we've got the names of the attributes, we've got whether it's a primary or foreign key, we've got the type, the data type, so is it a number, is it text, is it date, it could be time or boolean. And here we've got size as well. You'll remember that size can be applied to a text field, but it can't be applied to any other type of field. And the validation here, we've got presence check on first name here. And this is kind of like when you see on a website that you have to type something in, you can't leave it blank. There's a presence check. This is checking if something is present, often indicated with an asterisk. In your data dictionary, you would just say that there is a presence check. You could do the same with restricted choice. So here we're restricting the choice of the house for the pupil in the pupil entity. We're saying that their house can only be alpha, beta, delta, gamma. While we're here, let's talk about the size. Why is the size only 5 here? How can we let it only be 5? The text that's being typed into house, well, we're not typing it in, we're selecting from alpha, which has 5 characters, beta, which is 4, delta is 5, and gamma is 5. So the most we'll ever have is 5. So just find the longest word in the restricted choice, and that's the number of characters you can use for size for that field. Name is 40 here. I mean, 40 is quite a generous amount of characters for a name. I know some people do have very lengthy names, but 40 is pretty reasonable, I would say. And we've got another example here, restricted choice. Like if you're choosing the months, there's only a limited number of months, so you get to choose. Field length. Think of the example of a username. If you were to try and type in a username that was not, say, well, here it says 10 characters for passwords, but you sometimes get websites that restrict the username. It must be longer than 6 characters, 6 or more. I have a friend called Leslie Fu, and her surname, FU, is too short for most websites, so she has to add extra letters just to be able to register for websites. It's a bit of a shame, really. So how do we specify this in a data dictionary? Here we've got the people entity again, and the username that they're going to choose, it must be 6 or more characters. So you just say that the length must be greater than or equal to 6. There we go. It's also restricted to a maximum of 20. And you might remember that field length, they can restrict the lower number, the upper number, or they might say that it has to be exactly a certain number. Like if you're putting in a mobile phone number, the number of digits in a mobile phone number is always the same. It always has to be, I think is it 11 or 12? And finally, range check. So these only apply to numbers. It ensures that a number is within a specific range. You'll have seen this many times before. And you can apply a range to many different things, like ages can't be negative, prices can't be, well, I suppose they could be negative. That would be good to find if you found something for negative money on Amazon, you'd be getting paid to buy stuff. But I'm sure they've got range checks to make sure that they don't do that. In this case, the price must be between $1 and $100. They've gone out of range. We can do this in a data dictionary. So here we've got the pupil entity. Each pupil has a year group. Well, they can't be less than 1 and they can't be greater than 6. So the year group number must be greater than or equal to 1 and less than or equal to 6. In this case, you don't need to mention the field name again, whereas with length, you did have to say the word length. And there you go. That is everything you need to know about data dictionaries. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.